Tonight on NewsWatch, is the terror over in Boston? Why police say the bombers were planning another attack.
Plus, no, we can't. Why one author says peaceful coexistence with radical Islam is a myth, and we could be heading to a critical breaking point. And a servant of Satan is miraculously transformed. Now he's bringing the love of Christ to a Muslim region. All this and more tonight on NewsWatch. Good evening. I'm Mark Martin.
And I'm Wendy Griffith. 1 week after the Boston Marathon bombings, the city has begun to bury its dead and remember those who were lost. Authorities know the killers' identities and the total of dead and wounded. What they don't know for sure is how the two suspects got so radicalized in the teachings of Islam and who, if anyone, helped train them. Our John Waggy has more.
1 week to the hour after the attack, residents and officials held a moment of silence for the victims of the bombing that turned their city upside down. And in the suburb of Medford, hundreds lined the streets along with Boston Teamsters and firefighters to pay respects at the first funeral of a victim, 29-year-old Crystal Campbell. At a nearby hospital, authorities questioned 19-year-old Jahar Sarnayev, who is giving written answers because of a neck wound from the time of his capture Friday. The Boston Police Commissioner says the two brothers had an arsenal of weapons and may have been planning more violence.
They clearly had other explosives. They detonated those explosives at the scene of the arrest and shootout in Watertown. We feel that they had plans to use those explosives, possibly on soft targets.
Investigators also are trying to piece together whether the two brothers acted alone or as part of a larger jihadi sleeper cell. The investigation is prompting renewed concerns about the FBI's effectiveness in monitoring homegrown terrorists. The FBI questioned Tamerlan Tsarnaev 2 years ago at the request of Russian security services, but closed the case. Now we know that the 26-year-old traveled overseas to Russia and Chechnya just last year.
Somehow he got off the radar screen and traveled overseas to one of the most dangerous parts of the world.
But the fact is, we've stopped 16 plots in New York because we know that al-Qaeda has shifted its tactics. It's not going to be attackers from overseas. We've been able to prevent that. They are getting people in our country who are under the radar screen.
In Boston, more than 50 of the victims from last week's bombing are still recovering in the hospital. The city as a whole is also looking for ways to recover from a week that has left many shaken, confused, and angry.
Forgiveness does not mean that we do not realize the heinousness of the crime, but in our own hearts, when we are unable to forgive, we make ourselves a victim of our own hatred.
Several leading members of Congress wanted Tsarnaev declared an enemy combatant to assist, if need be, in tying the two brothers to a wider jihadi network. But the White House announced Monday afternoon he will be tried as a civilian. John Waggy, CBN News.
Joining us now by Skype is David GartensteinRoss with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. David, the brothers are Muslims from the Caucasus region of Russia, where there has been terror activity aimed at Russia. What could be the motive for this attack in the U.S.?
Right now, federal authorities have told the media that their theory of the case is that this is a jihadist terrorist attack. If you look at open source reporting, there's a few layers of evidence that journalists are also drawing from to draw similar conclusions. These include testimony of friends talking about, in particular, how the older brother, Tamerlan, became increasingly religious and increasingly radical in his views. This includes the YouTube channel, in particular, of Tamerlan, but also of the younger brother as well. There's a few other layers to it, including the request for information that Russia had sent to the FBI. But let me cap all that off by warning that this is still very early in the case. There's more information that's certainly going to come to light. Some early reports will probably prove to be inaccurate, but that is the theory that federal investigators have at this point in time.
Do you think it's likely that we're going to find out that they did not act alone?
It's hard to say. There have been persuasive cases made both ways. The argument that they acted alone was that they stuck around. They got caught doing a very stupid robbery. The flip side of this is that they had very good operational security. They built a couple of bombs that did detonate. So look, let's wait and see. We could place our bets, but the bottom line is we don't know right now.
Do you think their radicalization was a recent thing?
Yes. According to information that's come out from people who knew them, they were relatively well assimilated, relatively well liked. It seems like the radicalization, according to open source reports, of the older brother Tamerlan might have happened circa 2009 or 2010. But again, let me caution that this is still very early. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, as media has advanced and as we get more and more sources of information, social media and the like, suddenly we're looking at much more of a fire hose of info than we used to in past cases. In this case, one can see there's been a lot more media errors than in the past, including showing the wrong photographs of the perpetrators in the New York Post, having the wrong names go out for quite some time, reporting that there was an arrest when there wasn't. So let's be cautious with facts at this point in time.
Well, David GartensteinRoss, thanks again for being with us today.
My pleasure.
Two American legal defense organizations have asked the European Court of Human Rights to hear the case of a Swedish family heavily fined for homeschooling their children. Alliance Defending Freedom and the Homeschool Legal Defense Association are representing Jonas and Tamara Himmelstrand. They have been fined almost $16,000 for homeschooling their 13-year-old daughter. Sweden has one of the harshest homeschooling restrictions in the world. The Himmelstrands were forced to flee to Finland or face criminal charges.
Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel made it clear the U.S. believes Israel has the right to strike Iran to stop its nuclear program. Hagel was on his first visit to Israel as Pentagon chief. He held out hope for a non-military way to end the threat of a nuclear Iran, but he also made clear the U.S. and Israel see exactly the same threat and that Israel may have to take action.
We believe that the military option, which is well discussed, should be the last resort anyhow. I believe this way regarding any conflict. Without a credible military option, there is no chance that the Iranian regime will realize that he has to stop the military nuclear project.
Israel is a sovereign nation. Every sovereign nation has a right to defend itself. That calculation has to be made by the sovereign nation. As to your question regarding any minor disagreements about timing, if a time should get to a point here where we will then have to develop other strategies or other options, and I don't think there's any daylight there, any gap.
Hagel admits the two countries may have differences on the timing of a potential strike.
After weeks of heightened tensions on the Korean Peninsula, it appears North Korea may be finally ready to talk, but with conditions. George Thomas has details from Seoul, South Korea.
North Korea says it will only talk to the United States and South Korea if the UN sanctions against the country are dropped. In a statement released by senior military leaders, the North is also demanding that the United States stop engaging in what it calls nuclear war practice. Tensions on the Korean Peninsula have been escalating since early February, when North Korea conducted an underground nuclear test. Since then, the communist regime has threatened to attack South Korea, Japan, and U.S. bases in the region. But there's been a change in the tone of North Korea's rhetoric this week, prompting leaders in the region to be cautiously optimistic.
Major newspapers in Seoul, South Korea are talking about negotiations. The North Koreans obviously want the South to apologize before any dialogue can take place. They also want, incidentally, 28 to 30,000 American troops based here in South Korea to exit the country. That may not happen anytime soon, but clearly the tensions have come down. The unknown in all of this is the continuing leadership of Kim Jong-un in North Korea. He is, after all, a young, untested leader, but he has clearly used the last several weeks to play to two audiences: the world community, galvanizing the world community with threats of nuclear attacks, but also the ability to talk to his constituents back home in North Korea as a way to solidify his control over the country and to let those in the country as well as the generals know that he is still very much in charge. It'll be interesting to see in the days and weeks ahead how this all plays out and whether North Korea will truly come to the negotiating table and talk about potential peace here on the Korean Peninsula. I'm George Thomas reporting for CBN News from Seoul, South Korea.
Staying overseas, rescuers and relief teams are rushing supplies to rural provinces in China after a deadly earthquake over the weekend. The 7.0 quake struck parts of Sichuan province Saturday morning, killing at least 188 people and injuring more than 11,000. It triggered landslides and cut off roads and disrupted phone and power connections in the mountainous region. The Chinese Red Cross has deployed relief teams with food, water, medicine, and rescue equipment to the disaster areas. Rescuers are struggling to find survivors.
We're searching in a method called Dragnet. The method means we will search every village, every house, and will never give up trying to save the life of every resident.
The quake was among the deadliest China has seen in the past 3 years. CBN's sister organization, Operation Blessing, is rushing aid to the scene, including emergency kits, food, and other essentials. Coming up, warring worldviews, why this author says tolerance won't bring peace and the world needs to wake up.
Your dryer runs forever, and your clothes still come out damp? Now you can speed up your dryer by up to 15 minutes. Introducing the Lint Lizard. It's like a magic wand that cleans deep into any dryer. The flexible Lint Lizard attaches right to any vacuum hose. Look how much lint we got out of this dryer. All this lint that escapes past your lint screen. Yuck! A clogged dryer works harder. All that lint can even burn out your motor. Or worse, it can start a dangerous vent fire. It's a full 40 inches long and cleans deep into your vent system, grabbing all the packed-in lint that's choking your dryer. After a quick cleaning with the Lint Lizard, your dryer vent is clear, making it work less and run more efficiently. Old-fashioned lint brushes pull out some lint, and the lint gets everywhere. The Lint Lizard cleans deeper and sends the lint right into your vac bag. Vacuuming between machines and under appliances is a snap. Take it outdoors to vac your outside vent. So before you spend a fortune on costly repairs, order your Lint Lizard for just $10.99. Call right now and you can double your order. And that's not all. We'll also include the Dust Lizard. It attaches to any vac and adjusts to any position. The Dust Lizard goes where no other attachment can. Clean delicate electronics, tedious air vents, tiny tile crevices, crumbs from corners, dirt from slider tracks, places you could never vacuum before, even expensive sculptures and intricate chandeliers. Plus, the Lint Lizard comes with a money-back guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, return them and keep the Dust Lizard. You get it all, 2 Lint Lizards and the Dust Lizard for $10.99. Call now and find out about free shipping.
Call 1-800-373-2150 and get your Lint Lizard. But call now and you can get a special offer on a second Lint Lizard and the Dust Lizard with your order. So call 1-800-373-2150 and find out about free shipping. That's 1-800-373-2150. Call now.
Liberal talk show host Bill Maher butted heads with a guest Friday night, taking issue with the guests comparing Islamic extremism with other faiths. Maher was interviewing Brian Levin, the director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism at California State University at San Bernardino.
Could I just interject? Look, it's not like people who are Muslim who do wacky things have a monopoly on it. We have hypocrites across faiths, Jewish, Christian.
They're not as dangerous. I mean, there's only one faith, for example, that kills you or wants to kill you if you draw a bad cartoon of the prophet. There's only one faith that kills you or wants to kill you if you renounce the faith. an ex-Muslim is a very dangerous thing.
Maher went on to accuse Levin of being wrong about the facts. He said that while all Muslim people are not terrorists, violence is more than just a fringe element of the Islamic faith.
Well, we hear talk about tolerance and peaceful coexistence among religions and cultures. Sounds good, but is it really possible? Author Robert Stearns says he doesn't think so, and he recently spoke with CBN's Chris Mitchell about it. But first, here's a quick look at the popular notion of mutual coexistence.
There's a popular symbol on bumper stickers and T-shirts that spells out the word coexist, using the symbols of the world's dominant religions and cultural groups. Its purpose is to promote tolerance and peaceful coexistence. But author Robert Stearns says the reality is that coexistence is a myth. Instead, a war for world domination is raging. In his book, No We Can't, Radical Islam, Militant Secularism, and the Myth of Coexistence, Stearns explains why these warring worldviews will lead to a critical tipping point in global culture with potentially devastating consequences.
Robert, thanks for being here on Jerusalem Dateline.
Good to see you, Chris.
What is the myth of coexistence?
Well, you know, I think of Winston Churchill, who said, an appeaser is one who keeps feeding an alligator, hoping that the alligator will eat him last.
Right.
60 years after a madman in Europe stood up and said that he wanted to control the whole world and millions upon millions were killed, we have to understand that in an age of suicide bombers, at an age of nuclear capability, when we have extremist elements who are dedicated to the destruction of the Western civilization, the Western way of life, we need to take these people seriously.
And do you think in some ways they're trying to reshape Western civilization, something that we really need to be aware of?
I see within the radicalized portions of Islam an extremist view of Sharia law, that they are, let's remember, not only trying to impose upon the West, but trying to impose upon more moderate Muslim countries. We look at Turkey, for example. Turkey was at one point a very modern, moderate Muslim society, and yet now we see the increase of Sharia law in nations like Turkey, Egypt, and all of the unrest that's going on there. So we have to be aware of this global imposition of Sharia that is the goal of a radicalized version of Islam.
I remember Bernard Lewis says they're a menace to their own people before they're a peril to us, talking about the moderate Muslims. What about militant secularism? How does that fit into current day?
Well, we see among certain societies, we can look at Europe, we can look at other places where we've lost the Judeo-Christian foundations that have framed Western civilization, and we've tried to say that all cultures are equal and all cultures deserve the same hearing. Well, when you lose the immune defense system that a Judeo-Christian worldview brings to a society, and you begin to then redefine what freedoms are and what truth is, you then lose the ability to speak out on the kind of encroachment that a radicalized Islam would bring. And so we see this happening increasingly in Europe, where the increasing tide of Islam is unable to be stemmed because Europe has forgot their Judeo-Christian worldview.
And for more of Chris's interview with Robert Stearns, you can go to our website at cbnnews.com.
Up next, the criminal who struck fear in the hearts of fellow prisoners. Hear why one Russian thug turned to a life of violence and why he's renouncing it.
If an emergency happened right now, you can have help at the push of a button with Medical Alert.
Remember when I took that fall, Mary?
Oh, yes, that was terrible.
Yes, it was. Help! And I thought, what if you hadn't been there? I ordered my Medical Alert the next day.
I can't describe how safe I feel now with my Medical Alert. You didn't know I was wearing it, did you?
Medical Alert is easy to install, waterproof, and covers you inside your home and out.
It helps me feel safe from fires, break-ins.
And of course, a Medical Alert. And if you don't have a home phone, don't worry. They have that covered.
There's always help at the push of a button. Don't wait till you need it.
Get Medical Alert for less than $1 a day. There are no long-term contracts. Order now and get your second button free. Call for your free brochure.
For your free Medical Alert system with second button free, call 800-575-8507.
Attention sleep apnea patients. Are you tired of the expense and hassle of getting your CPAP and BiPAP supplies? Are you fed up with dealing with ill-fitting, leaking, or worn-out masks and straps? Are you worried about the effects that unsanitary tubes, cushions, and filters have on your health? If you said yes to any of these questions, Allied Medical Supply Network has the solution to your problems. You could qualify to have your supplies regularly delivered right to your door at little or no cost to you. That's right, no more inconvenience, no worn-out masks and straps, no more unsanitary equipment, just restful sleep. Call Allied Medical Supply Network today to determine if you may qualify to receive your fresh, brand-name supplies at little or no cost. Don't delay. Call us now to see if you are eligible to save money on regular delivery of your CPAP and BiPAP supplies. Call 1-800-815-9947. That's 1-800-815-9947. Or go to cpapsupplyhelpline.com.
We now know that the two suspects in the Boston bombings were Muslims from the Russian area of Chechnya who also spent time in neighboring Dagestan. Radical Muslims have been fighting a brutal rebellion in that region since the late 1990s.
2 wars and dozens of terrorist attacks have killed thousands of people there. Now, one man is on a mission to bring peace and the gospel to that region. George Thomas has his story.
Gennady Turkun is not proud of his past, and he gets uncomfortable talking about it.
I left home when I was 13 years old and got entangled with the wrong crowd. I did a lot of things that I'm ashamed of.
He's from the small Russian city of Krasnodar. His life reads like a Hollywood mafia thriller. Drugs, armed robbery, prostitution, hired assassin, money laundering, gun smuggling, you name it, Turkun did it all. And then some.
It's as if I became the devil's slave. I even remember making a pact with Satan to serve him.
And his deeds eventually caught up with him.
I was arrested and sentenced to 20 years in prison.
That's the past. And to witness the power of a life transformed by God, look no further than Gennady Turkun. The year was 1987. The former Soviet Union faced huge political changes, and a young Turkun sat in prison.
I had a bad reputation in prison as someone who had special cult-like powers. Prisoners were even afraid of me.
One day, some Christians came to share the love of Jesus. Turkun says it was the first time he had ever heard the gospel message. But it took 4 years for it to sink in.
In 1991, I realized its true meaning. I dropped to my knees in the prison cell and told God I was a sinner. I didn't want to live one single day without Him in my life. From that moment, I went from serving Satan to a servant of Jesus.
The prison miraculously shortened his sentence by 5 years, and he was released in 1996. The day after he walked out of prison, he walked into a Bible training seminar organized by Russian ministries, which focuses on bringing the gospel to the former Soviet Union.
Russian ministries was very instrumental in my life. Their classes taught me how to share my new faith with others. They also put in me a missionary heart to plant churches and help train the next generation of leaders in my country.
He was baptized shortly thereafter. Now, for more than 10 years, Turkun has been leading a church in the predominantly Muslim Northern Caucasus region.
I am convinced that it is the love of Christ that can turn this region around.
That's a tremendous show of faith because Islamic radicals have waged a bloody insurgency here for years. In that time, 2 wars and scores of terrorist attacks have killed thousands and displaced many more. Turkun's goal? Reach this war-torn region with messages of reconciliation and forgiveness. One way is to reach young people. Turkun coordinates dozens of youth camps each year in partnership with Russian ministries and local congregations. Di Gusalova is a member of Turkun's church and helps with the camps.
These kids have to know there is an alternative lifestyle to violence. We spend time playing games with them, handing out gifts and building relationships. It gives us an opportunity to share the gospel.
Many parents say the camps are God-sent.
I love it when they talk about peace and getting along with other ethnic and religious groups. They are helping to build bridges, and this is important.
In one city, the local Communist Party even took out full-page newspaper ads promoting the youth camps.
You may be surprised, but there are many Christians in the Communist Party. We believe that the messages of Christ can give these kids a brighter future.
When he's not coordinating camps or preaching, Turkun trains local believers to become the future leaders here.
It's all about missions and church planting.
Working in the Northern Caucasus is not without its hardships. It includes the volatile region of Chechnya, where Muslim militants and Russian forces have battled back and forth to control the province. There is relative peace now, but Islam's influence is growing.
With the help of the Russian government and several Muslim countries, including Saudi Arabia, Chechnya has today erected what could be the largest mosque in Europe. For evangelical Christians living in this province, life for them can not only be challenging, but potentially dangerous.
Ramza has first-hand experience. CBN News agreed to conceal his identity for protection.
I've been repeatedly warned by Muslim radicals and local authorities to stop preaching, but I will not. I am a simple man whose life was one day touched by Christ. I have a responsibility to tell others about Him no matter the cost.
It's the price that Ramza, Gennady, and the other believers are willing to pay to bring lasting peace.
God changed my life in prison that day for a reason, and this is it, to bring love and hope to these regions.
George Thomas, CBN News, in Grozny, Chechnya.
Ow, my feet hurt. My feet hurt, your feet hurt. White hot pain, I wanna cry. Is there anything I can try?
Why, yes! Introducing Strut Soul Angels, the human shock absorber that helps alleviate foot pain.
The first 10 steps in the morning to the bathroom were excruciating. Within 3 days after I put Struts on, it's been such a relief.
Slipped it on and almost immediately I felt a support, kind of like a pillow underneath my arches.
The Struts Soul Angel provides a great amount of relief and support throughout the course of the day, providing shock absorption and relief of pain.
On your feet without proper support can be painful. Strut Soul Angels promotes better balance, control, and body alignment. Standing in your heels all day is painful, but slip on Struts and you'll enjoy comfort and support 24/7. Struts is so versatile, you'll wear them in every shoe you own, even barefoot.
I'm on my feet all the time. I teach 11 and 12-year-olds. The pain was so much that I knew I had to do something. And with the Struts, I can do my job and enjoy my job.
I usually am on my feet from 8 to 12 hours a day. When I wear my Struts, it's like giving my feet a hug all day.
It's life-changing. I wear them from the minute I get up to the minute I go to bed.
Why pay $400 for custom orthotics?
Now get Strut Soul Angels for just $10. You also get Miracle Foot Repair Cream, absolutely free. Use it to help relieve dry, callous feet overnight. But wait, call right now and we'll double the offer free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Plus, you get a 100% money-back guarantee. If not completely delighted, send it back. But keep the foot cream as our gift just for trying. You get it all. A $70 value for just $10.
Oh, yes! Love my Struts, love my Struts. The best thing since sliced bread. They heal pain from toes to head. Get yours now, your doctor said.
Struts, be nice to your feet. Call now.
Call 1-800-787-1580 and get your Struts and Miracle Foot Repair for just $10 and we'll double the offer. That's 1-800-787-1580 or visit getstruts.com.
Well, Mark, a new health craze is leaving patients with welts. That doesn't sound like something I want to try.
Kind of bizarre. What's called cupping. It's an ancient therapy believed to relieve tension and improve circulation, but cupping doesn't just target physical pain. Some say it can even help fertility and a general emotional well-being. And as for its effectiveness, doctors say the jury's still out.
When the cup is placed upon the skin, the suction causes the blood vessels to dilate or to open up to get blood to flow there. Generally, cupping is considered very safe, although better design studies still need to be done to make more of a conclusive statement.
Looks a little creepy, but stars like Gwyneth Paltrow, Jessica Simpson, and Victoria Beckham swear by the practice. Clients say cupping doesn't hurt. It just feels like a little pinch that gives you a big welt.
It looks really weird. I think a massage therapist once wanted to try that on me, and I don't think I did it.
You politely declined?
Politely declined, but maybe I'll give it a try next time. Good night.
That's all. Bye-bye.